Well, good afternoon, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Morecambe. I'm the Chief Executive Officer, and this is a slightly unusual meeting. It's this meeting we're electing for the next 12 months, or the remaining 12 months of the term of this council, a new mayor and deputy mayor, which we'll be doing very shortly. Members of the public gallery should note that council records and publishes council meetings via YouTube to enhance the accessibility of council meetings to the broader Wellington community. These recordings are also archived and may be published on Council's website for viewing by the public or used for publicity or information purposes. At the appropriate times during the meeting, members of the gallery may address the Council, at which time their image, comments or submissions will be recorded. Members of the public who are not in attendance at the Council meeting but who wish to communicate with the Council via the webcasting chat room should lodge their questions or comments early in the meeting to ensure that their submissions can be dealt with at the end of the meeting. Could gallery visitors and councillors and staff please ensure their mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode during the course of the meeting? I'd like to ask now everyone to be upstanding for the prayer and statement of acknowledgement. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gunai-Kurnai people, and pay respects to their elders past and present. And the prayer. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon the Wellington Shire Council, its councillors, officers, staff and their families. We pray for your guidance in our decisions so that the true good of the Wellington Shire Council may result to the benefit of all residents and community groups. Amen. Councillors, just before we appoint a temporary chair, just note there in the minutes there are no apologies, and just seek whether there are any conflicts of interest in any of the agenda items presented today, and there are none. For the benefit of those watching and those in the gallery, all decisions by council must be made by an appointed member, one of our councillors. So, in order to conduct a mayoral election, we need to appoint a temporary chair. So, I'll now seek for motions to appoint a temporary chair. Councillor Zetti.
Thank you, CEO. I move that Councillor Crosby be appointed as temporary chair for this council meeting prior to the election of mayor.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Stevens. Councillor Crosby, are you happy to perform that role? Any other nominations? No other nominations. Anyone opposed to that motion? No one's opposed. The motion is carried. Councillor Crosby, I would ask you to assume the position of temporary chair. Thank you. And happy to pass the baton over.
Turn the red light on. Thank you, CEO, and thank you, councillors. Just for the audience and those our viewers back home, my role is quite short. I'll just be calling for nominations for the mayor. Councillors can be nominated or self-nominate, and there's no requirement for a seconder. Councillors will be asked to confirm that they accept their nomination, and then voting will proceed. Once the process has determined the nominations, for example, if there's only one, then that is concluded very swiftly. But then there's a formal, again, ask whether the nominee will accept that, and then a formal motion will be required, and a seconder to move the motion in order to elect that person as mayor. If there's more than one nomination, it'll go through the process of voting, and then again the successful person will be asked, and then the formal motion goes ahead as previously. So I now call for nominations for the important role of mayor. Councillor McCubbin.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to nominate Councillor Hall.
Councillor Hall, are you willing to accept that nomination? Are there any other nominations for mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to nominate Councillor Hall.
Thank you. Councillor Hall, are you accepting that nomination?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that nomination.
Thank you. So we have a show of hands. Any other nominations? Big pardon. Thank you. Thank you, CEO. There be no further nominations. We have a show of hands as Councillor Hall was nominated first. All those in favour of Councillor Hall being Mayor, please show your hands in the normal manner. Do we note that at this stage? No.
Six of Councillor Hall.
Those in favour of Councillor Hall? That it's declared that we need now a formal nomination for Councillor Alan Hall to be the Mayor.
I'd like to move the recommendation that Councillor Hall be elected as Mayor for the 2019-2020 period to 6 a.m. Saturday the 24th of October 2020, the commencement of the Victorian Electoral Commission's declared 2020 Local Government Election Day.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Stevens? Is that motion opposed? The motion's not opposed. The motion is carried. And congratulations for another. Can we note it's unanimous? Yes. Thank you. Sure.
Stolen my list.
Ever crucial notes.
Thanks very much. I guess it's appropriate if I actually say a few words at this moment. So firstly to my colleagues, thank you for re-election for a second term as Mayor. It's fair to say that my first term has been incredibly rewarding, and I think as a group I'd like to say congratulations. This job is can only be done appropriately as a direct reflection of the quality, the calibre, the collegiate nature and the respectful way that councillors' officers go about their business. It's no doubt this last year has been challenging. We're more than aware of the impacts that the drought has had, and the way that we've dealt with it as a council, I think, has been more than appropriate. We've had great advice from officers, great relationships with our agricultural reference group, and as a result, my job as Mayor has been made significantly easier because of that very respectful and collegiate way that we go about our business. So to all of the councillors, thank you once again for the support for a second term, and I will do my very best to deliver against any expectations that you may have. Thank you very much. You reckon after a year I'd have a handle on some of these things, and we need to move on to the election of a Deputy Mayor. Councillor Crosley.
Thank you, Mayor. I nominate Councillor Gail Maher for the role of Deputy Mayor.
Councillor Maher, are you prepared to accept that nomination? That doesn't need to be seconded. Do we have any other nominations for Deputy Mayor? If not, we will then put the motion, Councillor Crosley.
Well, delighted to move the motion that Councillor Maher be elected as Deputy Mayor for the 2019-2020 period to 6 a.m. Saturday the 24th of October 2020, the commencement of the Victorian Electoral Commission declared 2020 Local Government Election Day.
I have a seconder for that from Councillor Rossetti, who was just marginally quicker, Councillor Stevens. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried, and congratulations to Councillor Maher. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Crosley?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, it is with great confidence that I nominated Councillor Maher because I think she's shown great skills and development over this term. She's taken on a number of serious and responsible areas in committees. Seats probably one of our seats. The planning one and various waste. That's as I say, is a state government nomination, and very ably put her skills to that area. She's also been a great advocate for her local community and been a great resource for that the coastal ward. And I think it's also really, if I can be a little bit biased, it's great to have a female in this role as well of leadership, and I think it's encouraging for others that are coming into an electoral year next year to encourage other females to think of these leadership roles for the future. So I think it'll be a very able job that you will do for us, and I know you'll put your whole heart towards it, and I know you'll get a great deal out of the experience as well. So congratulations.
Could I just add my congratulations? I know over the journey that, and I mentioned earlier the collegiate relationship between all of us, but there's no doubt that we've all in fact had some wise counsel from Councillor Maffra along the way as well. So I'm looking forward to the next 12 months working with Councillor Maffra in this particular capacity. So thank you. Do you wish to speak now? Yeah. Thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for your support and the nomination, and I will certainly do my utmost to represent this council well and to support the Mayor in the deputy role. And I'd just like to say thank you to the community and the ratepayers that actually elected me to this very privileged table to work with some really exceptional people around this table. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And before we move on, I realise I've been somewhat remiss. Over this last 12 months, the role of deputy has been filled by Councillor Hull, and during that time, you cannot be all things to all people, and you cannot be at more than one place at the same time. And Malcolm's and Councillor Hull's support in that role, particularly during times of the bushfires and other matters where covering off everything that needs to be covered is extraordinarily difficult. And I've been genuinely very appreciative of the role, the support that Councillor Hull has played in that, and his representation of particularly the Shire in all of the other areas that he does that so well. So I should have been quicker off the mark with that. So Councillor Hull, thank you so much for all the support you provided, not only me but to the council generally over this last 12 months. That would be fine. I'd appreciate if that was noted in the minutes. For the record, those statements of appreciation would be fine. That'd be great. And I think it's time to move on to item A4, confirmation of minutes of the previous council meeting. Councillor Bye.
Thanks, Mayor. I move the council adopt the minutes and resolutions of the ordinary council meeting of the 15th of October 2019.
Second for that motion, Councillor Rossetti. Motion opposed. If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Bye, just move on. Item A5, there's no business arising from previous meeting. No late items. No notices of motion. And no outstanding petitions. Moving on to item A9.
Sorry, Mayor, I apologise. We do have a petition in relation to trees in Dazali Street, but that will be brought back to the next council meeting.
Right. I thought that was the case. Moving on to item A9. Is there any invited addresses, presentations or acknowledgements for this meeting? If not, moving on to item A10, questions on notice. Councillor Maher, I understand you have something?
Yes, I do have a question on notice. There are currently signs warning of footpath hazards around the Alberton Township. Can the CEO inform the council about whether there are proposed works to be undertaken to address the footpath hazards? What is the proposed timeline to complete these works, and have Alberton residents been notified? Thank you.
Do we need a motion in regard to that? Nope, done.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll take that on notice and provide a response to the next council meeting.
Thanks, CEO. Moving on to report of delegates. Councillor Hull, I understand you have a report.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I've got several reports, so get your cushions out and sit back. Last week, the State Council and State Conference was on in Melbourne, and I think we would all agree just about every presentation was one of the best that has been a State Council, State Conference for a long, long time. And I'm going to deal with 2 or 3 of them in order. One we have was Gail Sloan, the CEO of Waste Management and Resource Recovery Australia, and you probably know of her. Very well-educated woman in relation to waste management. Some of the things that she pointed out to us in the conference, that there's no need for a 4th bin for glass. The ability to put glass, paper and cardboard in the same bin is there. There's no need to put the added expense onto ratepayers introducing a 4th bin, because paper, cardboard and glass are reasonably separated. The statistics that she pointed out, that there are 67 million tonnes of waste in Australia each year going into landfill. And of these, 12.9 million tonne was organics and 5.6 million tonnes was paper and cardboard, excuse me. And her suggestions for a sustainable system was for the Victorian Government to 1, invest in recycling infrastructure, 2, fund and support market development, 3, introduce a deposit container scheme, 4, bolster community education, and 5, strengthen industry oversight. And for local government, she suggested that 1, we should collaborate for market expansion, 2, to educate the community, buy recycled concrete and glass, and explore stream separation. And this is a collection service that separates glass from the rest in the curbside recycling. In the new world of circular economy that's being pushed fairly strongly now, in one of these new world things that we're living in, the suggestion was that when we call, well, councils call tenders for roadworks, or road repairs, that part of the tender contract should include the use of either glass or concrete as part of that recycling. And I won't go through the rest of it because it's 3/4 of an hour and I know you want to get home. We also had the Minister for Local Government, Adam Somniak, there, and spoke to the delegates, and he told us that the new Local Government Act will come into vogue on the 1st of January 2020. The result was that he didn't give us a lot of information. The result will be that metropolitan and regional cities will all be single-member wards, and in rural Victoria, it'll be a case of a mix of single-member wards or unsubdivided, and unsubdivided will be the smaller shires because they don't have the population. The fact is that originally it was going to be 17 of the smaller shires, but we're hearing it'll be less than that. So, part of another new world coming, and next year, elections coming up, we'll be probably on single-member wards, and we're going to be party to it. Then we're very fortunate to have Sarah Barker, who is the Head of Climate Risk Governance at Minter Ellison Lawyers, and she raised some pretty strong issues that the future holds for local government. The changing world that we keep talking about is going to present us with a lot of problems that we hadn't prepared for, that we didn't know was going to happen. And unfortunately, she did a beautiful presentation. I was listening to her and watching the slides as they were coming up, and thought I would take it off the email when it was sent down to us last Friday. And unfortunately, she has withdrawn her presentation, and so I don't have all the details I want to frighten you with. A couple of very nice, interesting ones. I had an invite to go to the Oz Timber 2020 upgrade last Wednesday night down at Tarolgan. The pats on the back that Wellington Shire got, as did Latrobe, but I used them in smaller letters, so from the organisers was phenomenal, and we were mentioned not just once, we were mentioned several times. The organising committee that day had a meeting out on site and getting ready for the, I think it's in March. The current indication is, or current registrations are from 11 countries around the world currently, and just over 80% of the trade sites have already been sold. The problem, or areas of concern that was raised, was the availability of the train service to be able to bring people into Gippsland. We're getting people coming around the world where they get these bullet trains where they get off and before they sit down, they're back on again, or vice versa. And the accommodation in Gippsland, like 4 years ago, will be totally booked out, and I have to use Melbourne accommodation. The executive officer, I suppose, has been trying to talk to Beeline to get some idea of their plans and projection. Unfortunately, it's not forthcoming, and I hope through our officers we might be able to assist the organising body to get some sort of definitive answer. I believe that the same cares and concerns have been raised by Farm World, who on their weekends, on Saturday and Sunday, have trainloads of people come from Melbourne after a day out and then trainload back, and they can't get any sort of positivity out of the Vic-Track, V-line. And the last one, and this is a little bit longer, is the future of our forests. And it was the Gippsland Youth Symposium, and I've got to tell you, there was no school strike to get these youth along. They gave up their day during the school holidays. It was an open invitation for the youth from Gippsland, and they came from Bruthen to the east to Druin in the west. There was 30 of them there, including young Indigenous youth, and to talk about what happens with our forests and how to use them. It came about because back in early in the year, Delft ran a symposium for youth in Melbourne. 45 people turned up, and just about everybody was there representing a green environmental group, and as you can imagine, they wanted to close the forest down, not only just for timber, but for bushwalking, four-wheel drive, motorbiking, but they were all city people. And the educators before the afternoon session gave them a fairly good education based on city life. So Melina Barth, our upper house representative, took it on herself to have a crack with the youth of Gippsland. And they've come up with some pretty strong recommendations. In fact, the push was so strong, pushing rural avenues, and I'm going to read a few of them out in a second, that the Minister has pulled the report that she was going to release with public, because she had public consultation to close the forest. And the retaliation has been quite significant. She did quote us that she would be releasing the document after Christmas and sometime in the next year. But the fact is we've got enough support, and this is from the youth of Gippsland, protecting jobs, protecting the use of the work. It's a message to the government from the youth of Gippsland. Young Gippslanders strongly support a balanced forest management system to encompass a range of community and industry benefits and values. Participants supported the opinion that industry, recreation and conservation can coexist. They want the government to acknowledge and incorporate their regional perspective when considering regional forestry agreements. The government's decisions will have long-lasting implications on regional communities. Gippsland youth are concerned the government is pandering to environmentalist lobby groups during consultation. Participants are concerned about the negative portrayal of the native timber industry. They felt the government is not listening to and fairly representing their interests and jobs. Young Gippslanders feel connected to their local forest and landscape. They call for myth-busting education to promote positive management practices in the industry, which includes protection of biodiversity values and carbon storage capacities. A restriction in public access to forests and reduction of the native industry would negatively impact individual well-being and regional communities. And this is what they have recommended. Mayor, sorry if it's taken so long. This is a very important piece of equipment from the youth of Gippsland. One, that the future management of our forests must incorporate rural and regional views and perspectives. Two, that the government should support a native timber industry incorporating sustainable management practices. Three, government should promote the economic and sustainable benefits created by the native timber industry. Four, bushfire prevention and suppression techniques should include traditional mosaic burns and maintenance of access tracks to protect forests and safeguard regional communities. Five, improve weed and pest control measures to protect forest health and biodiversity. Six, recreational and bush user activities within Victoria's forests should continue without diminished access. And seven, government should promote enhanced engagement with the Indigenous communities as a mechanism to share, educate and protect cultural values. And it goes on a lot more, but I'll now table that for our economic development people to have as a record. But it was great to see that the youth of Gippsland had a bit more knowledge than what was put together as a symposium of metropolitan youth. That's it.
Thanks, Councillor Hull, for that detailed report and your vigorous representation of all issues Gippsland. Thank you. Moving on to item C2, General Manager, the C2.1 Assembly of Councillors. Councillor Bye.
Thanks, Mayor. I move the Council note and receive the attached Assembly of Council records for the period 9th of October 2019 to the 30th of October 2019.
Second, Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Bye. Move on. Item C2.2, Remuneration Committee minutes. I think that's back in your hands, Councillor Hull.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm going to move the Council note and receive the minutes from the Remuneration Committee meeting held on the 15th of October 2019 as attached. And two, Council endorse the actions from the Remuneration Committee meeting held on the 15th of October 2019 as detailed in the attached minutes.
I think that was Councillor Crosley by that much. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Hull?
No, it's ready.
Right. Moving on then to item C3.1, Drought Support Program for Farmers. Councillor Rossetti.
And congratulations, Mayor and Deputy Mayor. I move that Council 1 allocate the Victorian Government Service Support Payment of $3,310,000 to drought-affected farmers in Wellington Shire rate relief for all farm property assessments classified in Council's rating system as farm properties at 1st July 2019 on a proportional basis based on the applicable 2019-20 farm vacant or improved rates raised at 1st July 2019, excluding any waste infrastructure charges, garbage collection charges, EPA levy or fire services levies, subject to receipt of a formal funding agreement from the state government. And two, allocate $40,000 from Council's $1 million Drought Support Initiative Fund towards the Gippsland Agricultural Research Farm demonstration site to improve farm management locally and increase the capacity of local farmers to adapt to dry conditions.
It was seconded by Councillor Ripper. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors, for supporting that. We're pretty excited that we're going to get this $3.31 million from the state government. We know that our communities, farmers in particular, but broadly the communities as well who rely on the farmers, are struggling with the drought that's been just continuing. So when we considered what options we had with this $3.31 million from the state government, we thought the best thing is to get it out there as quickly as possible and to get it into rate relief. Having consulted with our agricultural industry reference group, they were keen to see this, as were our local members of parliament and others we spoke with. There's always going to be lots of different views on how one would distribute this through rate relief. We've decided to go with the probably the most transparent and cleanest cut way of doing that, and that is to simply do a credit to all of our farm rate recipients in proportion to what they currently pay. It's going to be about 30% of their rates are going to be credited. We're hoping to get the documentation through with the state government pretty quickly, so ideally it might be done by the end of this calendar year, if not early next year. There's processes and agreements here, but I'm quite sure that our farming communities will be pretty keen to see that credit being applied to their rates bills. It comes on top of a lot of the other support that we as a council, and indeed hand in hand with other levels of government, have been able to provide to our farmers, to be able to allocate the $700 debit cards, which has been a good take-up of those, for instance. Those debit cards have been really interesting, councillors. I know that we've been speaking and hearing from various businesses around the communities who have also benefited from those cards. We heard today about the Rosedale butcher is finding people who would normally shop outside of Rosedale, actually coming to Rosedale to make sure they spent that money getting a good cut of meat from the local butcher shop. So it's not just the farmers who are benefiting from these sorts of initiatives, it's actually the local shopkeepers, and that flows through the rest of our communities. The potable water support package, I know, is really well received, actually getting potable water to the farmers for free. That's been, the delivery for free has been quite a popular, well-received program, and hopefully we can do some more of that if this drought continues. The one thing that will stop this drought, of course, is rain. We can't do much about that. I'd like to be able to bring some rain in, and certainly some farmers have told me, Mayor, that the only thing that will help really ultimately is rain, but the fact that we can chip in this rate relief and these other programs, I think is really important. The other bit that's in there that councillors will note is that we've just supported is $40,000 from our own funds, from our own drought support initiative that was in our budget, to assist with the project farm in East Gippsland, which is between the two of us. The Gippsland Agricultural Group demonstration trial farm near the Bearsdale Aerodrome. 400,000 of that has gone in from the Premier's, as part of the Premier's announcement, so we're chipping in an extra 10% onto that. Because we know that one of the elements that is really important in this whole process is helping farmers become more resilient. We are a land of drought and flooding rain. There are the elements of climate change coming in as well. But either way, we need to be able to help our farming community adapt to this change. And these sorts of research initiatives are going to be really important in that adaptation. So being able to put $40,000 of ratepayers' money into that project, I think is really important. And it seemed to be a good time to do that while the state are putting in $400,000 into that. So I think it's very exciting that we can be a part of trying to help here. I really do feel for so many people who are impacted by this continuing drought. But for us to be able to do our bit to help, I think is a good thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Resheeting. Given the criticality of this issue, councillors wish to speak to it. In addition to Councillor Resheeting's comments, anyone else like to make any comment in regard to the matter? Excellent. We'll move on that basis. Moving on to item C, 4.1, Kerb and Channel Renewal Program Contract 2020-005. Councillor McCubbin.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council adopt the recommendations contained in the attached confidential tender evaluation report at item F1.1 of the Council meeting agenda for contract 2020/005 Kerb and Channel Renewal Program, and I'll take 2 as read.
Seconded by Councillor Bai. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Do you wish to speak to that, Councillor McCubbin?
Do you want to mention this?
I do indeed, and I'd like to announce the successful tenderer as Whelan's Group Investments Proprietary Limited. Councillor McCubbin.
Thank you very much. It is like all politicians, we like to cut the ribbon on something bright and spangly and new, but this is wonderful that we're actually investing in renewal works. And so for the people of Hayfield, Stratford and Sale, the curb and channelling work is going to be renewed. And I can't give the precise details of the contract, but we're certainly talking over $250,000 here that's going to be spent on ensuring that our drains are running freely and that our curbing is maintained into the future. And can I just say, congratulations to Whelan's who have got the contract for the work. But I'd also like to congratulate, and I can't mention them, but I'd also like to congratulate the other people who've put in the tender. Council does look very carefully at these tender processes. We do note the competition that is generating a good value for our ratepayers, and I'd like to thank all people who've put in a tender document to ensure that we get the best possible value for this contract. Thank you to Whelan's. Thank you to the rest.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Thanks, Councillor McCubbin. If I can move on to item C4.2, Footpath Renewal Works. Councillor Marr.
I move that Council adopt the recommendations contained in the attached confidential tender evaluation report at item F1.2 of the Council meeting agenda for contract 2020-004 Footpath Renewal Works, and the remainder is read.
Second to that motion, Councillor Bye. Is that motion opposed? Not. The motion is carried. And can I announce that the successful tenderer as Contula Constructions Proprietary Limited? Probably got that wrong, but I think so.
That's beautiful.
Keep practising. Councillor Marr?
Just to add that this is an annual program that sees maintenance of footpaths within urban areas, which results in an improved amenity for all users. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If we could move on to item C4.3, Stockdale Road intersection safety upgrades, Briagolong-Stockdale and Beverleys Road. Councillor Ripper.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council adopt the recommendations contained in the attached confidential tender valuation report at item F1.3 of the Council meeting agenda for contract 2020-031 Stockdale Road intersection safety upgrades, Briagolong-Stockdale and Beverleys Road, and I will take paragraph 2 as read.
Second for that motion, Councillor Crosley. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. And can I announce that the successful tenderer as East Gippsland Road Maintenance Proprietary Limited. Councillor Ripper, do you wish to speak to that?
Thank you, Mayor. As those that travel up, most people go up that way to Dargo. There's a lot of four-wheel drives go up that way. They're very unfamiliar. Some of the four-wheel drives of the area, some are very familiar. Having travelled that area on numerous occasions, I in fact go right out to the left to turn right onto the grass because it is very, very dangerous. And it is a fantastic that we now are going to have this fixed prior to we having any tragedies on that area. So I thank all those government bodies who have seen fit to have this area fixed. It has log trucks, a plethora of all sorts of vehicles going up that way. So it's a very, very good money well spent. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper. If we could move on to item C4.4, Balloong Road, Woodside Recreation and Sealing. Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm very pleased to move that Council adopt the recommendations contained in the attached confidential tender evaluation report at item F1.4 of the Council meeting agenda for contract 2020-018, Balloong Road, Woodside, Reconstruction and Sealing, and point 4 as listed in the agenda taken as read.
That needs to be renumbered, doesn't it? That's better, yeah.
The number probably should be changed, Mr Mayor, yes.
The numbers have been sorted. Seconded by Councillor Rossetti. Is that opposed? If not, motion is carried. And I can announce the successful tenderer as QR Constructions Proprietary Limited. Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. I'm very excited about this project because Balloong Road, despite its unusual sounding name, is in fact a fairly important connector road being used by both local people and visitors alike. It connects Yarram basically to McLaughlin's Beach, and also visitors further east to both Reeves Beach and basically on the alternate route to Woodside Beach. And this work is going to widen 4 kilometres of Balloong Road east of the Old Sale Road intersection, and this is quite a deal of the road is actually, I think, 6 metres wide. This part is only 4, and so it's going to be very important work, safety improvement for all the vehicles using the road. So, and I see that we have received a number of contract prices, and we have received a very successful price to do this work. So it's all very good news, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Stevens. If we could move on to item C 4.5, Urban Street Asphalt Resheeting. Councillor McCubbin.
Thank you very much. I'd like to recommend that Council adopt the recommendations contained in the attached confidential tender evaluation report at item F1.5 of the Council meeting agenda for contract 2020-022 Urban Street Asphalt Resheeting, and 2 as read, please.
That was seconded by Councillor Ripper. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. And can I announce that the successful tenderer is Cranes Asphalting and Bitumen Sealing Proprietary Limited. Councillor McCubbin.
Thank you again, Mayor. And again, I'd like to reiterate it's wonderful to be able to spend money on some of these, keeping our roads safe. This is for our major towns in Maffra, Sale, Stratford, Yarram and Warwick, to look at where it's not appropriate to do just spray sheeting, to do an absolute total a revamp of that area, major patching and line marking. So really good that we're keeping an eye on these roads and maintaining them appropriately. So I thank the staff for bringing this to our attention.
Thanks, Councillor McCubbin. If we can move on to item C 5.1, Gippsland Art Gallery Advisory Group minutes. Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the Council receive the minutes from the Gippsland Art Gallery Advisory Group meeting held on 2nd September 2019.
Seconder for that motion, Councillor Stevens. That motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you, Mayor. A few quick highlights in there. There's a number of acquisitions which have been made, and they'll obviously add to the experience of people going through there. I still love wandering in there with Clara Jones's piece of young mates lying on the floor. If anyone hasn't seen that, you need to wander in there and have a look at it. But the Friends of the Art Gallery is, they've changed the name, updated their rules, but it's nice to see they've got 200 and something, 214 I think it was, people who are contributing there. And it's because it is part of our community, and it's great having community members in there supporting it. And I note that the gallery director spoke of the increasing numbers still of people coming in to visit the gallery, which is a great asset for our community, and it's great to see that people actually enjoy using it.
Thanks, Councillor Rossetti. Moving on to item C 5.2, Gordon Street Recreation Reserve Committee Management minutes. Councillor Hull.
Mayor, I move the Council receive the minutes from the Gordon Street Reserve Recreation Committee, Committee of Management's general meeting held on 2nd of September 2019.
Seconder for that motion, Councillor Stevens. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Hull.
Yeah, just a quick report, Mayor. The committee has had the ageing mowers serviced and repaired, because not only are they doing the mowing at Hayfield, they are going to continue doing them at Newry as well, because Newry don't have those facilities. So it's now that lovely intercommunication between the cities in the north of the Shire. One of the aspects to come out of the meeting since the last time I was there was the fact that there was a matter of remuneration of management money to keep the facility going for the various clubs, and so the committee had a special meeting and to allocate who had to pay what, and the upshot was that every committee contributed. There was one small committee that was going to have a little bit of trouble raising this fund because of a small number of competitors, and one of the bigger clubs stepped up and increased their contribution to the management to overcome that problem. So that was great. And just before I sit down, I've left one thing out of the delegates' reports. No, not that I didn't drink beer. The MAV recognise the contribution that councillors make to their communities every year. They give certificates out for 5, 10, 15 and 20 years, as well as other awards. And this year we were fortunate enough to have 10-year service recognised on behalf of Councillor Crossley, and so I'd like to offer our congratulations and say thank you.
Yeah, well done. Okay. Item C 5.3, Briagolong Recreation Reserve Committee of Management Minutes. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council receive the minutes from the Briagolong Recreation Reserve Committee of Management's general meeting held 14th of August 2019 and 9 September 2019.
Seconder for that motion, Councillor Stevens. Is that motion opposed? Not, the motion is carried. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say that Briagolong Rec Reserve has changed the facade and the inside of their pavilion. It has all been upgraded. It absolutely looks fantastic. The Rec Reserve Committee are having an open day this Sunday, 10th of November, at the Rec Reserve from 2 p.m. to about 5 p.m. for all families, whether you're in the district or not. You want to bring your children along, there'll be jumping castles and barbecue and that. To have a look at what we now have is an up-to-date pavilion at Briagolong. And I'd just like to make note that the committee, how hard the committee have worked, and they've had their sleeves rolled up all the time to get this to an absolutely wonderful, workable for the community of Briagolong. So it's well worth having a look at the furniture that they've got. It is state of the art, and it's thanks to the Shire and to the other government bodies where the money come from, but to put it all together was the committee. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper. And moving on to item C 5.4, Maffra Recreation Reserve Committee of Management Minutes, and I think we're in your hands again, Councillor Ripper.
I'd like to move that Council receive the minutes of the Maffra Rec Reserve Committee of Management's general meeting held on the 2nd of September 2019.
Second for that motion, Councillor Bye. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to speak. A fortnight ago, on the Saturday, the 26th of October, the Maffra held their annual show. Sadly, on the Saturday, the weather was not as kind as it could have been, and sadly, as Councillor Rossetti mentioned earlier, all we need to break the drought is rain. Well, it wasn't really rain, but anyway. So I'd just like to congratulate the committee. Entries were up, and when I was talking to the committee, the amount of volunteers is staggering, absolutely staggering, that they take to put together this show. So I'd like to thank each and every one of those volunteers, no matter what length of time or whatever they did to get the show underway. They are a great link in the chain. And with one of those links not being there, it wouldn't join and the show wouldn't go ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper, and they indeed do a fine sandwich at the Maffra Rec Reserve. Any matters of urgent business, CEO?
No, Mayor, no chat room comments.
Thank you. I might move on now to, if you can bring that back down for me, Denise, thanks. So this is the opportunity for the gallery. So gallery comments are an opportunity for members of the public to raise any particular matter they wish. This allows those in the gallery to speak directly to councillors, but it is not a forum designed for open discussion or debate. We will listen respectfully to what you have to say and make the commitment that the Mayor will respond to you in writing within 1 week if required, and a copy of that response will be circulated to all councillors. This is not a forum for members of the public to lodge complaints against individuals, including councillors and staff, particularly as that individual gets no public right of reply to any matter raised. We take complaints seriously, and in line with the guidance from the Victorian Ombudsman and the Local Government Inspectorate, we request that any specific complaint against an individual be put in writing. This way, your concern can be properly dealt with while ensuring fairness to all parties concerned. If you wish to speak, we remind you that this part of the meeting is being recorded and broadcast on our website. Council's official minutes will record that you have spoken to Council and the subject you spoke to Council about, but will not record specific comments. We ask that you state your name in full, where you're from, and time allocation is 3 minutes. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to Council? I'd like to come forward to the rostrum, to the lectern, and then state your name, and you have 3 minutes as I indicated.
Okay, my name is Maurice Shanley. I reside at 12 Thompson Street, Sale, and I am a ratepayer. My complaint is regards to the notice of the valuation of the rates per this year. Now, I've been down this... Is this working?
Yep.
I've been down this track 5 years ago, and going through the same process. I'm going to have to do it all again. But in that last 5 years, I got a reduction of $35,000 to $40,000 off the previous valuation that I received. Now, this one here this year is $354,000, and I've been to a reputable real estate in Sale, and they have done a comprehensive valuation of the property and so forth. And I'll just read a little bit here. After analysing the comparable sales evidence compiled from our own records, the Valuer General records the current sales in the area. We are of the opinion that if the property were to be offered for sale today, the market would achieve a sale price in the vicinity of $300,000 to $320,000. Now, that's a big difference between that and $354,000. Now, this seems to be an occurring thing going around every so many years, that the property value is going up and up and up, yet the general median price around our area, as I've got listed there in the pamphlet from the real estate agent, that they average between $270,000 and $310,000 in my area, or the area that I live. Now, I don't know how they come at all this sort of price structure, but I've had a lot of talk to a lot of people in my area, and they feel that because, say, my house is valued at $300,000, the house next door, which is nearly $500,000, and the one down the road is $500,000, they put all those prices together and give you a median price of your house, and I don't think that's fair. So I'm now going through the same process I've done 5 years ago, and hopefully get another reduction that I should get.
Well, we've heard the issue, and we'll refer you to Mr. Skipetaris just to get your details, and then, as we indicated, we'll respond to you. As you note, the matter, in fact, of valuations is determined by the Valuers General's office, not council. They provide that information to us, and there is a process, as you've identified, to deal with this. But if you, Mr. Skipetaris, will get the information from you, and we will respond to you within the next short time.
Have I got any more time left, or that's it?
A moment.
And the other thing I just wanted to bring up, it's been brought up before at these meetings in regards to the waste, or the trip to the sale tip that used to be just around the corner here. Now it's out at Kilmany. Years ago, they used to have a voucher system for ratepayers, that you'd get 12 vouchers a year, which would give you 12 free tips to the tip. But now there's no such thing in place, and I feel that ratepayers shouldn't really have to pay to go to the tip, because they're paying all that in their rates with the garbage and all this sort of stuff. So that's another point that I'd like to bring up.
Take that point on board, and we'll get a response in due course from us in regard to that matter.
We're allowed to respond to that.
Well, if you're so inclined, Councillor McCullum, but normally it's up to you if you wanted to physically, if you want to respond.
I'll talk about the vouchers, if I may. Look, the vouchers, I absolutely accept the point that you're making. Can I just say to you that the vouchers in my time on council has never been, so it's many, many years ago. So I think the City of Sale used to do it back in the 90s or whatever.
That's right.
And fair enough too, but I'll let you know that there's no such thing as a free trip to the tip. So
no,
when you go to the tip and you drop your stuff off, that we get charged by, certainly for the use of that space. So the EPA or whatever, they charge us. So there is actually a charge. So the question for you is whether or not council distributes that charge to everybody, or does it as a user pay system. So in other words, if you go down the tip, then you pay for the cost of putting the stuff in the tip, and we recover that from you in terms of the payment that you make at the gate. So there's no such thing as a free voucher. It's either we spread the load over every user, whether they pay for it or not, or those people who go to the tip more often pay more often. And to be honest, and I support that, council supports the idea that it's a user pays model and that everybody who goes to the tip pays the necessary fee, and understand that council necessarily doesn't get that fee. That fee goes to the EPA in terms of land space, or sorry, airspace, but it also goes to us maintaining the tip in some ways. We don't make a profit out of the tip. We actually pay for the tip. The tip still costs us money in the long run. So I'm sure Mr. Skipetaris will explain that to you far better than what I have, but I think it's important that you walk away here with a bit of an understanding of where we're at. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McCubbin. It's probably worth noting too that Councillor Maher has just reminded me, of course, that during the month of November, running up to the prior to the fire season, that green waste is being accepted at the transfer stations and at Kilmany free of charge.
Why don't you make more of them available then?
Well, we've done that this year. I think that was an initiative that we've put in place this year. We can continue to listen and learn.
And
so
it costs council to run the free.
But we recognise the importance of that issue running up to this current fire season. We've put that initiative in place. We'll obviously monitor that, see how well it was taken up, how successful it was. But in regard to your specific comments, if you give your details to Mr. Skipetaris at the end of the officer section there, and we'll get a detailed response back to you.
Okay, and Darren McGovern, in regards to what you said, it does cost to go out there, cost you petrol and stuff like that, plus the cost of the tip.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to address council? I don't know that we have any councillors need to move into closed session for any matters. If not, I'll take the opportunity at 5 minutes to 4 to declare this meeting closed. Thank you very much.